Hello there. Welcome to episode 25 of Never Mind the Bullens. My name's Mike Peters. This is your bite-sized weekly Everton podcast and vodcast. Lots to talk about today on the back of that Leeds game, which was just a crazy game. Great for the neutral, not so much for Evertonians. Very frustrating. We'll get to that in a sec, but let's start with the positive news of the week, with fans being allowed back into the ground for the Chelsea game onwards. Fingers crossed, and hopefully it will stay open. We won't go back into Tier 3 after Liverpool being announced that it's in Tier 2, and fans will be able to continue to come into Goodison for the rest of the season. Of course, 4 games to play, 4 home games to play in December, 3 in the league, 1 in the cup. You'd imagine that the League Cup game against Manchester United will be the same setup. It'll be season ticket holders and hospitality members only. Can't imagine a scenario where the club are going to start selling tickets to that. It just seems so overly complicated, particularly when only 2,000 fans are allowed in the ground, and there's 26, 27, 28,000 season ticket holders. How that's going to work in practice, that we don't know yet. I asked the question of the club when the announcement was made on Thursday as to whether fans who are in Tier 3 areas are going to be allowed to come in to Tier 2 areas, and the club couldn't answer that question, but then that shouldn't be down to them to answer. That actually should have come from the government. That's the first thing I would have thought of, to be honest with you. My mum and dad live in a Tier 3 area. They're season ticket holders. I live in Liverpool. I'm in a Tier 2 area, of course, so therefore it's like, well, are they going to be able to come? Are they not? When the club's talking about trying to keep friends and family members together wherever possible, to ensure that they can all attend the same game. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But 4 games, in December, and the fact that we've got any fans in there is better than nothing. Despite the fact, people, there's a few sort of naysayers on social media suggesting, well, what's the point of having 2,000? Well, it's no good, Yeah, I know it's not as many as we want. It's not as many as any club would want. But the simple fact of it, 2,000, given that we haven't had a fan in the ground for 9 months, nearly, is better than none as far as I'm concerned. So, and we can only build it from there. But, I'm sure the atmosphere this evening would have been brilliant. Goodison under the lights on a Saturday, but immensely frustrating at the end of it, because there would have sort of been certainly some consternation when the team was announced. I couldn't get my head around the selection for tonight's game against Leeds. I really couldn't. I didn't have a problem with the system, but I just wonder, Carlo's got to carry the can for this. I don't understand the logic of having, or his thought process in having Alex Iwobi and Tom Davies as wing-backs. Tom Davies has played as a right-back, at the ends of games before, when we've tried to change the system or what have you. And I have genuinely thought with Tom Davies over the past few weeks, when we've been getting so exposed down our right-hand side, and James Coleman has been overloaded numerous games because James Rodriguez is not going to put in defensive shift. That's not what he's in the team for. I thought actually maybe Tom Davies is the person that can play as that third midfielder, would allow Abdoulaye Doucouré and Allen to get a little bit further forward. Andre Gomez has not really done it. Neither has Gylfi Sigurdsson. So it's like, well, why not put him in to try and do that? But when to play as a right wing back, which is a totally different position to a right back, to a full back, I thought was an odd choice. He did the nuts and bolts stuff well. In terms of his tackling was fine. He kept his position, defensive position. But any time we got forward, where you were looking, there was 2 or 3 times in the first half where I'm looking at it going, right, Seamus Coleman will be running off the back of the fullback to try and get in behind Leeds. And Tom Davies has just stood there waiting for the ball to come to him. He's not thinking about running beyond. And that was a feature of the entire game, and it shows how much we missed Seamus Coleman and Luca Dean. I mean, that is a massive blow to not have him for the next 2 months. He gives us so much. He gives Richarlison so much licence because of the runs that he makes in taking defenders out of the game. Obviously, he's so good defensively. His set-piece delivery. That's a big blow. And to put Alex Iwobi in there tonight, who I thought did all right last week, and I said that, they did well against Fulham, but again, it's against Fulham. Tonight was going to be a totally different challenge for him, to be playing on the other side of the pitch. He's not naturally suited to that. He's certainly not naturally suited to be defensive like in the way he was. And you knew Leeds, the way they play so far up the pitch, they really press on. And they're great to watch. He was going to have his work cut out, and he just couldn't get forward at all. He couldn't do anything. and we just didn't get in behind Leeds at any point. We didn't get around the back of them at all. It was either all in front of Leeds, or occasionally we'd get a ball over the top to Dominic Calvert-Lewin for him to run onto, because Leeds pushed that space. But because they pushed that space, that meant that we had a lot of space in midfield to play in, and I thought Alan exploited that really well. But, it was just odd to me, because Marcelo Bielsa is nominated for Coach of the Year, and fair play to him for that. Congratulations to him for that. But you only needed to be nominee for Coach Driver of the Year to work out that your best tactic today with Alex Iwobi at left wing back was to just load the ball towards the far post, and he was going to be, and he just had no answer to it. And that's not a criticism of him. That's just not his game. He's not a defender. So I just didn't understand the logic of when you've got Niels Nkounkou and John Joe Kenny, who, as far as I know, are fit. And feel free to correct me on Twitter at NMTBpod if neither of them were. To natural fullbacks who can play wing back. We've seen how good Niels Nkounkou can be going forward, and John Joe Kenny as well. But to not have either of them, never mind starting the game, but even in the 18, I thought was a very, very odd decision. I really did. And this run of form we're in now, 4 points from 6 matches, is a concern. I know we're still 6th in the league, and I don't want to be, really negative about it. But the fact that, again, Leeds had so many opportunities, 23 attempts on goal, scored 7 of them. Their XG, which I never really understand, but I think it's about quality of chances. They should have scored 3 goals. Well, but for Jordan Pickford, who was excellent tonight, he really was, made a number of terrific saves, really top draw saves, which hopefully will give him confidence and get the media off his case a bit, because he was superb, and he was the difference for us tonight in terms of keeping the scoreline down. We've got to find a way of being more defensively solid. I didn't think it was necessarily the personnel. I mean, I think that Mason Holgate, Michael Keane, and Ben Godfrey actually played quite well as individuals. I know Godfrey is getting a bit of stick on social media tonight, and I actually think he's getting better. We've got to give the lad time. I actually thought he played quite well tonight. Yes, he should have got close to Rafinha for the goal, half a yard closer, and closed him down. But hey, he'll learn from that. But I thought the number of other things he did, clearing balls off the line, chasing down, was good in the air. I'm pleased with how he's progressing. I have no doubt that he'll continue to progress over the course of the next season or two. We'll have a real player on our hands, certainly a potential England international, no question, a full England international. But they were just absolutely inundated. It was like the Alamo at times, because of the way Leeds play and the way they attacked, really attacked our weak points, which was down the flanks, down the channels, and caused us problems. And fair play to them for doing that. So again, we're just offering up chances left, right, and centre. Now we know Burnley next week is not going to be the same. Burnley are going to be much more solid defensive. That's the way they've always been, but they are going to pose a threat. Balls into the box, and we've got to be much more solid. We've got to find a way of stopping teams scoring goals. I don't care if we end up sitting in and just, I know that's probably not what we're going to do, but we've got to find a way of being absolutely, really incredibly tough to break down, that you've got to score an absolute worldie to get a goal against us, or to create chances against us, because at least then if you're defensively solid, you're at least going to get a point, and then that allows you then to build. It's a platform to build on. Now, given that we've had a week's worth of training and the energy levels were much better tonight than they were against Fulham last week, we actually looked less solid against Leeds than we did against Fulham. Now, so what is going on the training ground? That's what I want to know. What is the system that they are working on? I know it's a work in progress. I know there's a long way to go before Carlo Ancelotti's happy with the squad that he's got, but that's the squad he's got to work with now. And there's a big run of fixtures that are really going to make the season, because we've got a lot of teams around us, above us, that we, at home particularly, that we really need to get points out of to really show what we can do this season, to get ourselves in a position for January, a platform for the rest of the season, to change that squad a bit, improve it, try and ship some players out on loan, try and bring some bodies that we need, again, maybe on loan in. And that's what we need to do. There's a lot of work to do before Burnley next week. Fingers crossed that it will happen, and we'll come out of the Burnley game next week saying, fantastic performance defensively, particularly. But anyway, we shall see. Until that point, you can get in touch at NMTVPod on Twitter, nmtvpod@gmail.com on the email. Until next week, come on, you Blues.